What is up, Sleep Tribe? Welcome to a brand new episode. Actually, it's a brand new season of the Healthy Sleep Revolution podcast. I am your host, Dr. Meghna Dassani, and today I have somebody very special with you. Dr. Deepa Kannan is a functional medicine practitioner, but she also combines Ayurveda, ancient wisdom, sleep, into everyday life in this modern and fast-paced world. So I'm super excited to be chatting with her and seeing what we can do and how we can connect all of this for all of us to get into healthy sleep. How are you, Deepa? It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Meghna. It's a pleasure to be here. And just to clarify, I'm not a doctor. I'm a functional nutritionist and an Ayurveda practitioner. So I just wanted to clarify that. But everything else you shared was great, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification. So let's jump into this because, when I've been following you on Instagram. So for those that aren't, please, I'll say this at the end of the show as well. We'll have her share her Instagram handle. Once again, we'll post it in the show notes, but I've been an avid follower of her Instagram channel. Do you want to share your handle?
Yeah, it's at OHA Health, OHAHEALTH.
Perfect. And like I said, I've been an avid follower, and it's just resonated. I guess growing up in India, growing up exposed to Ayurveda, and I still utilize it within my everyday life for my family, for us. I even talk to patients about it sometimes. So how are sleep challenges different, or how are they defined differently or similarly in today's sleep world and then ancient wisdom?
That's a great question, Meghna. And I think that it took me back. I kept going back and forth with my training because I had one step in this world of such cutting edge science and functional medicine, the other foot in this world of ancient wisdom. And for me, in the beginning, it was a bit challenging because, in Ayurveda, nobody will consider labs. Nobody will consider that part of the picture. And sometimes in the space of science, everything becomes about research backed. So not everything that we find in yoga and Ayurveda has the research to back it up. It's catching up for sure, which is wonderful. So it was challenging to navigate these two worlds. So I was trying to see what can I do? How can I find the middle ground? So I was trying to find a way to use these labs to understand people better, but also teach people that there's so much non-invasive practices that you can utilize for yourself from the comfort of your own home, not needing to go anywhere, not depending on anybody, something that you can interweave into your daily life to help your sleep and help everything else. And of course, sleep challenges themselves are viewed, it appears outwardly like they're very different, but in truth, there is a lot of similarity, which is what I've tried to do in my book, but we can talk about that book later. Just to give you an overview of that, it appears as if they're very different. We're talking in the sleep world about various sleep challenges, and I've sleep physicians on my podcast who've gone into this area of specific sleep disorders. But I must bring mention that between those who have sleep diagnosed conditions, there's a world of people who are not sleeping perfectly. And I was trying to make a dent in that space. So I was trying to look into this area, and I started to see that there were connections. For example, your listeners might have heard about the three doshas in Ayurveda, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And to me, it appeared as if the Ayurvedic text defines sleep challenges predominantly in those who have aggravated Vata dosha also a little bit of aggravated pitta dosha, and then talk about those with excess kapha as the ones who get diagnosed with sleep apnea, breathing challenges. So there was a correlation there. And what I started to see was how can we define excess vata to somebody who doesn't understand Ayurveda fully. So I started to look into what is excess vata. So let's talk a little bit about that. So when we say somebody has excess vata, we're talking about what today is defined as sympathetic dominance, fight or flight, where there's the imbalance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic. So we're not able to wind down. And we talk so much today about if we are in excess fight or flight because we are bombarded with stress, our body shuts off these non-essential functions such as digestion, immune function, reproductive function. But this is what Ayurveda says, that excess vata and agni, which is the digestive fire, have a seesaw effect. They are antagonistic. That when there's excess vata, there's weak agni and vice versa. So to me, it appeared as if when we say excess vata, there is a fight or flight. There's also adrenal issues. So when we're talking about excess cortisol, this all goes into the vata body constitution and those who have aggravated vata. So there's so much that is there in Ayurveda and yoga to calm down vata, which we can talk about later if you like. But for now, let me just stay with the definitions. When we say excess pitta, what does that look like? So there's so much. When we say pitta, there's a high fire in the body. And this high fire, we see a lot of correlation with modern day chronic inflammation. So it could be chronic inflammation of the gut, intestine hyperpermeability. There's so many correlations. There is a high histamine, which impacts sleep, which prevents people from falling asleep. So there's these correlations of vata with overdrive, over imbalance or rot nervous system, pitta with inflammation, kapha with this excess of congestion and the inability to breathe, because when there's excess kapha, it closes off the throat, the nasal passages, and that's what today gets picked up as sleep apnea and sleep disorders. So there is this beautiful correlation, although they outwardly appear to be different, but maybe this is not going to be showing up in research so soon. It may take a long time. There is a lot of research being done by Ayurvedic doctors, which is really good, because I even discovered a vata and the vagus nerve correlation. So it's good that it's all trying to catch up, because it will just validate a lot of these practices. I hope I covered everything in that question. If there's anything that I missed, please ask me.
No, and I was just thinking about it when you were explaining this, like Ayurveda has been around much longer, right? I mean, you and I, well, you're right now in India, of course. I'm born and raised there, spent majority of my life there. And that's what we grew up with. These terms are so familiar to us, but then we are just now, with practitioners like you, creating that bridge between ancient wisdom and ancient medicine and what we over here in the Western world are trying to do. So that was a very, very good explanation. How did you get into all this? Like, what was your motivation, or what drew you into this?
Meghna, so I got divorced from a bad marriage, and then I remarried a fellow yogi, and we had a child, and obviously it was the second time we got married, so it was a little late, and our son was born with this very rare adrenal disorder. So his body doesn't produce cortisol and aldosterone, which are life-giving hormones. So he's a steroid-dependent child, and there can be multiple situations which are potentially fatal. So anything where we can dehydrate, where we lose salts, he has to be in the ICU with higher dose of steroids. So in the first few years, we were constantly running to the emergency room, and that's what took a toll on my health and my sleep, because I was always alert and this could be potentially fatal. So I started to, after a few years, think about, I asked his doctor, would food help? And she said that it has no role to play. And I just didn't buy that. So I felt that intuitively I could make a difference, at least to reducing his hospitalizations, at least to reducing the emergency situations. And therefore I was always teaching yoga, but I got back into school to study nutrition and then functional nutrition, Ayurveda. And it's been about 5-6 years. He has not had a single hospital admission. He's still on steroids. He's still got challenges, but we've made a huge difference to the quality of his life. And so if I were to say what is the thing that drew me, it's absolutely being there, showing up for my son.
Yeah, doing whatever you could. And I've always said this, when we are so motivated, and it could be moms, dads, it doesn't matter. When we are so motivated towards improving something for people that we love the most, is when these huge ahas happen where the whole world benefits. So I'm so grateful you listened to your intuition and that you are bringing this to the rest of us that absolutely need it. So how can we use this wisdom, this ancient wisdom of Ayurveda, to actually help improve sleep? You showed us, you explained how the imbalances in it affects it, but what can we do? How can we use it to actually make a difference?
Well, I think there's no dearth of tools from Ayurveda. Really, we have a huge toolbox right there. But if I were to start with the practices to utilize to calm down Vata, this imbalance in the nervous system, I would first say pranayama, simply because Vata has 5 sub-doshas, and these are 5 energies that move in specific directions in the body. Apana goes downward at the pelvis, Samana goes clockwise at the belly, Prana goes upwards at the chest, Vyana goes down the limb, and Udana goes in the throat and the head. So when we have imbalanced Vata, these 5 energies are not just moving incorrectly, they could be moving in a wrong direction. For example, if prana in the chest is in excess, we'll have anxiety, we'll have palpitations, we won't be able to calm down. So when we do a simple pranayama, like an alternate nostril breathing, we calm down the 5 vayus. So while it seems a simple practice, I think where most of us, and I'm guilty of this as well, where we miss out is consistency of practice, where we rely on these practices more when we are in a state of emergency, and then we're trying to calm ourselves down. Whereas what we need to be doing is to build consistent practice where we're improving the resilience to stress. So if we are in a situation, our ability to deal with that stress is better. So I would say alternate nostril breathing is wonderful. Like 10 minutes of that can calm down the 5 vayus. And if you lie down after that, you just feel how calm you are, and it allows you to sleep. And my most favorite of all is Abhyanga, which is the oil massage. And I have an Abhyanga masterclass releasing very soon on my website, where it's absolutely accessible to most people, but I go through all the benefits, but also a beautiful framework of how to select the right oil based on location, season, your body, your symptom. So I've created this structure where you can pick the oil. However, since we're here on the podcast, the best oil for everybody for better sleep is just warm sesame oil. And even if you don't have a whole lot of time, just applying warm oil all over the body. You don't have to soak your hair. It's best if you put a sheet or an old towel on the ground, and after you apply the oil, lie down in Shavasana for 10 minutes because that grounds the energy. Vata is air. So when we feel our body on the ground and that earth energy, it starts to calm down that excess air and we feel calm and safe. The power of Abhyanga, I've managed to get somebody who was on heavy medication for sleep. It was a medication typically for schizophrenia. He had been put on that by a doctor, and we managed to get him off that. Predominantly, I would thank Abhyanga for this, his daily practice of Abhyanga, which allowed us to taper this. So Abhyanga is really great. There is a lot of research into oil massage, that how when we touch the body with oil, we boost oxytocin, we lower cortisol. So there is physiologically something beneficial happening, and it's not just some practice from somewhere where there's no validation for that. So there's a lot of science to back that. Maybe we should share one practice for excess pitta, this fire, the inflammation, which I would most at the top of the list, I would say stop reducing the things that you do in a day, because pittas have that go, go, go and the overdrive, never wanting to slow down, wanting to be the very best, the type A. So absolutely, that's where you should begin. But otherwise, if there is a feeling that you're heated up, the eyes are hot, the body is hot, you could try just drinking a half cup of aloe juice first thing in the morning regularly. This slowly calms down. It also heals the gut mucosa. So it's a lot to do with gut healing. And we know today with a lot of research that the gut-brain connection, there's a lot of connection between the digestive system and sleep. So that can be helpful. And for somebody with excess kapha who's having sinus congestion, not allowing them to breathe through their nose at night, sleep apnea, I think the very best practice to loosen that excess kapha is a combination of doing jalneti, which is cleansing the nostril, moving your body every single day. So you're walking 10,000, 15,000 steps, which gets rid of that stuck energy and moves everything around. And using ginger and turmeric in food, which gets that kapha melting and moving out of the passages which block and create the challenges with sleep. I hope that was enough.
Oh my gosh, that was so amazing. For our listeners, I think everybody knows, and for those that don't, I will tell you right now, born and raised in India, my grandma, my mom's mom, played a huge role in my upbringing. And all of these tips that you just talked about is things we did. Like, I remember the oil bath Sundays, right? Sundays were set for oil bath and massage. And I thought it was so boring that Nani used to make me do this. And as you grow older, you then see the wisdom in it. To date, when I am sick or battling a cold, if my mom is visiting me here in Houston, she will grind up the ginger, give me the ginger and lemon juice to drink. We'll put a tablespoon of honey in it. These are all ancient remedies that are not just old wives' tales, right? There is actual science to it. Yes, like you said, Ayurveda, we don't have all the research and the documentation, but it's so old that I'm sure there is. It just hasn't been connected to the way we are looking at it. And, we were talking about the excess Agni and such. That's our patients with the heartburn, right? The go, 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 the type A people, everybody that has heartburn. It's like you said, like slow down, take a breath, don't do so much. So I'm so glad I'm having this conversation with you. And thank you so much for all of this great information. We are almost coming to at the end of our time, but I want to bring this up. And I know we're not talking about yoga today, but you have this amazing video on your Instagram about Surya Namaskar. And that is something I actually have persisted with in my practice. If you wouldn't mind taking a couple of minutes to go over the benefits of it. And for those listening, I know I keep bugging y'all, but go follow her Instagram account, Oha Health at Oha Health. That is probably one of the best renditions of the demonstrations of the Surya Namaskar that I have seen. So what are the benefits and why should we be doing that every morning?
Oh, I'm such a huge fan of Surya Namaskar, Meghna, that I just feel it's so complete. And, sometimes we're all guilty when we don't have a whole load of time to go and exercise. I just tell everybody, even if you have 10 minutes, put your mat and do a few rounds of Surya Namaskar, your entire day goes better. But before we go into the benefits, I just should clarify, which I also mentioned in the video, that there are a lot of challenges today. I see a lot of people who've learned yoga recently and running challenges, encouraging everybody to do 108 Surya Namaskars every day for 10 days. And this is not how it was meant to be done, because for 1 hour, the quality of our movement gets sloppy. We're no longer synchronizing our movement with our breath. So rather than calming us down and releasing the blocked prana, the energy, instead it puts us further into a fight or flight. So there are a lot of people today with excess vata, and if they're doing these practices, they're going to end up further imbalancing the nervous system. But if we were to do it correctly, slowly, in sync with our breath, it has the potential to calm down all the energies in the body. Physically, it has the ability to move. It's moving blood everywhere. It's helping us to detoxify our lymphatic system, which means it's boosting detoxification overall, improving our digestion. And because it's moving the spine constantly backward and forward, what's happening in the spine and the nervous system is that it's gently squeezing out, wringing out stagnant blood flow from the spine and the nervous system. So by the time we finish and lie down and give some time in Shavasana, there's this fresh blood flow through the nervous system. So think of it as almost a reboot of your nervous system in a way where you're moving your body. Especially wonderful for somebody who's so overworked and in fight or flight that they cannot sit down, meditate. They cannot close their eyes and force themselves to relax. They need to be able to relax themselves while doing something, because they're still not in a space where they can just sit down and meditate. So it's a bridge between the excessively overworked person who's trying to relax and the person who can just sit down and meditate. It allows you, it's like a Zen moving meditation. And I must share this, Meghna, my students get so flustered with me when I have them do a 1 round of Surya Namaskar in 1 hour. So we do a practice where I guide them through just a round. So we're moving in such low rhythm that by the end of it, the next few days, your entire body is sore, because it has so much strength built into that practice, which is also stilling your mind completely in that few moments. So the benefits, and I don't know if you are aware, you might be, but maybe your listeners are not, that the Surya Namaskar has 12 steps, which represents the zodiac. But more than that, the whole movement represents the journey of the sun from sunrise to sunset. So the first pose starts where we are representing us at sunrise. And then when we raise our arms up, we are reaching up to the sun for blessing to begin our day, which is what is our respect for our circadian clock. And then when we bend forward and we are moving our leg back, we are active in the morning. So it shows that that's the time we are able to work. When we go back to a rabbit and then we slide forward into the actual namaskar, where we've got our forehead on the ground, that is the noonday sun. So we're surrendering to the power of the noonday sun, where we cannot do anything, and that's so powerful. And then we start the journey back for the rest of our day, where we come back, and then we end by thanking the sun for the nourishment it provided us through the day. So this one round also is a symbolic practice which connects us back to nature, back to us needing to be in sync with the earth's diurnal rhythms of light and darkness, which is the golden key to sleep.
Yeah, wow, that was amazing. Yes. My grandma always told us growing up, she's like, you don't need to go to the gym to work out. If you just do the Surya Namaskar the way it is supposed to be done, you will have the healthiest body that you can ever ask for. So I love that you said you have your students do one round in an entire hour. I can understand why their body is sore. Tell us about your book. I know when we were chatting earlier, you mentioned it's not coming out until December, but tell us about it. What is it about? Just share everything about it.
It's by HarperCollins. It's titled How to Sleep Better, the Miraculous 10 Sense Protocol to Recharge Mind and Body. So it uses an ancient framework of 10 senses in our body to juxtapose systems in the body and look at the physiology of poor sleep through different systems in the body. So just like we did this little overview of science and ancient wisdom, the entire book goes into this interconnection. So every chapter has the science as well as practices from ancient wisdom. That's a very broad description of it, but it has a lot of practices. It has amazing tools which probably never been discussed in sleep. So it will help a lot of people to take charge in their own home.
We will have to have you back in December before the book release to actually talk more details.
It would be a pleasure.
I cannot wait for it. I cannot wait for it. Before we let you go, how can our listeners find you? And then where can they find the online masterclass that you were telling us about on Abhyanga? If you can share some details. And for those that are listening in, I will have all of this linked in the show notes. So don't worry if you don't know where to look, but we will link everything in the show notes.
My website is www.o. The services page, all the courses and masterclass is listed with the dates that they release. So by the time this episode releases, hopefully the Abhyanga masterclass will already be live. If not, if you are very interested, you can always write a mail to help@ohahealth.com or direct message me on Instagram @ohahealth, and I think that's about it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. This has been a fascinating conversation and lots of great information. And I know our listeners are going to benefit as well. Last thoughts before I let you go. What are your top tips for patients or for people that are struggling with sleep? Where would you suggest they start their focus on?
I think exactly what we discussed in protocols, Meghna. If I were to say, start anywhere which is absolutely safe, I'd say pranayama and abhyanga. It's probably way safer than experimenting with supplements unless you're working with somebody. So this is something that everybody can do It's going to calm down the nervous system. And I can tell you for sure that there are a lot of people who do beautifully with sleep, and then a period of high stress spirals everything. So if we can figure out a way to support ourselves where we don't fall into the effect of stress, because we are going to be facing stress, I think that is the most powerful. As cliche as it sounds, I think where most of us miss out is that we know stress is damaging, but we don't have the consistent practice. We tend to go towards the SOS practice, which doesn't work. So when we're in high stress, none of these work for us, even the Abhyanga, even the pranayama. So we want to be building resilience by doing every day. So my practice is every single day in the afternoon at 2 p.m., I lie down on my carpet in my office, wear an eye mask, put on a guided meditation, and I zone out for 15 minutes. And I do this every single day, irrespective of what is happening. Am I having a great day? Am I having a stressful day? I still show up for it. And I think that is the difference.
That's amazing. Such great tips. Non-invasive. You're not putting anything inside your body. You're allowing your body to do exactly what it knows to do by providing it the tools. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to have you back to talk about your book. I cannot wait for your book. And I know I will be signing up for your Abhyanga class, for the master class that's coming up. Thank you so much, Deepa.
Thank you, Meghna. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And I think time just flew by.
Right.